Happy Sunday. How we doing today? It is not beautiful outside, so I'm inside. It was nice out yesterday. So I was going to do a live stream yesterday and I'm like, it's just too nice. So I decided to do it today. Love answering people's questions. I actually have some servers to update, and I can update servers while I'm talking to people. And I also have a couple ideas related to this. I reached out to some of my other YouTube friends, and maybe we'll do some live streams where we talk about different servers and compare them, like XCP-ng and Proxmox. And the reason for doing it on live stream is I want to do a speed run of setting one up, like me and someone else. So I'm good at XCP-ng, find someone who's good at Proxmox and run through setting all of them up and talk through it. I think it might be a fun live stream because then, we're not editing, we're not cutting it up. We're showing you start to finish in real time what it takes to set some of these things up. And I think that might be fun. So throw that out there to me if you think that's a good idea. I'm trying to come up with some good collaboration ideas. I'm actually terrible at coming up with ideas for collaboration. I'm always saying yes when someone invites me on their channel. I have no problem inviting people on my channel. It's just harder because I don't always have ideas that lend themselves to the collaboration. So yeah, this is a thought I had. Second, making better indexes of these live streams has been a request many times, and it's hard because I babble on and answer about 1 million questions. Well, I don't know about 1 million. That's an exaggeration. We'll be more accurate. But at least 100 questions might get asked over a 2-hour period. So one of my goals is I've been playing with a lot of AI systems, and they are really good at auto looking through an entire video and placing all the commentary. So I'm playing with them. If you know a good one, awesome, let me know. But I want to find one that way I can just point it at 2 hours of Tom babbling, but then produce something that people may find interesting because they can jump to something that's interesting to them where I had a discussion on a particular topic. If you know one, awesome. If not, I've been reaching out to people and trying to figure that out. Like, what's the best one to use in email? And I'll throw that email and banner up right now. Email the vlog Thursday at lawrencesystems.com if you know a good tool for doing it. The problem is not that there's no tools, it's that there's a bunch of tools. I don't know which ones suck and which ones don't suck. So if you know a creator using this, let me know. I realized I touched my glasses just before this started. This is my only problem I've had since wearing glasses, touching them. If you don't touch them, you're fine. If you touch them, then you have problems because I can't stand something on them. It's like one of those, I like perfect clarity all the time, and it definitely messes with my clarity. So there we go. I picked it. Just before I reached up and God, there's still a spot on there. I'll see if I can get it off with my shirt. It's just one little spot and it's in the middle. So it's making it worse. There we go. Now it's gone. Let's see here. Hello from Flint. I'm gonna start working backwards. You launched a new channel. You're a tech career coach. Be open to doing the Proxmox install. I'd have to know that you're really good at it because I have to make it fair to the viewers that I'm not. You don't want to choose someone, and I don't know. It's because I don't know you. I want to make sure someone who's very proficient at setting it up. So that's the important part to me. But reach out via Vlog Thursday. Send me some information. People like Jeff from Craft Computing know it really well. So does Raid Owl. If you haven't followed Raid Owl's channel, who else do I know? I don't know him yet, but there is Dave's Garage. I think not Dave's Garage. I'll have to find the channel. There's a few channels. I follow. There's some of them I know. So there's like channels I know directly because I interact with the people like Jeff Geerling and them all the time. And then from there, what do we got here? DB Tech. I know him, but I don't know how good he is at it. But where's the other guy? I got to make a whole list of channels. That's actually on my to-do list is going to be building a list of all the tech channels that I think are good. And the downside is it's not that I think the other ones are bad. I just may not have interacted interacted with those people enough to really give you an assessment of whether or not they're good or bad. But I have our giant Discord. It's private, sorry, but it's where all of my YouTube friends hang out, and I invited all of them there. In case you're wondering, I've got something, fixing something on my hand. It was itching. The YouTube friends that I have that, just we all are collaborators who support each other, and it's the names that you know, like Wendell and as I mentioned, Jeff Gerling, Craft Computing. Let me see who's in the list here in our Discord. I always forget there's so many of us now. There's a lot of us in here. Rich from Two Guys Tech, Storage Review, Patrick from Serve the Home. A few, I don't know some people's by name. Oh, Techno Tim's in there. So we have a pretty good collection of people. Chris from Crosstalk Solutions, Veronica Explains. So we got a pretty good list of us in there, and I'm going to make probably a page on my. I was really thinking this is probably a good idea to create a whole page on my website where it has all of the people in there that I'm friends with, or at least I respect their content quite a bit. And so you can like find a bunch of good YouTubes or podcasts that I like. We've been careful to figure out what to call the group. We're trying to follow a similar rules of how Nebula works. And if you're not familiar with how Nebula works, you can't ask to join Nebula. Nebula is a pretty neat service, but you can't ask to join. Someone has to ask you, and it has to be decided by the group and collective to vote someone in, if you will. We're trying to come up with some rules. The problem is when the other creator channels that I belong to, everyone got invited. And no offense, but if you have a lot of people who are only part-time or not serious, it kind of dilutes the group because it becomes harder. It just becomes a bunch of chatter. Our chatter is a lot more concise because all of us are pretty much, I think everyone in there is pretty much a full-time creator. And so we're trying to establish, the goal isn't to gatekeep that we want people out. We just want the conversations to be very, more in depth. Me and Jay from Learn Linux TV started this group, but it's kind of a back end of, it's just been really good to be able to have a bunch of other creators who do exactly what you do and have the same struggles to work with on that. But then there's plenty of them. I actually have other groups I recommend people start in, like follow Jay Klaus if you're looking into getting creating. There's a lot of good starter places that can get you a lot of information to get you so far. And there's a lot of other groups for this. There's been a bunch of TechTube channels out there. There's even some good subreddits for it as well. But let's get on to the topic of servers and stuff. So, hi, Travis, you're updating stuff. Hello from Hungary. Awesome. Good morning from Ultralife. My Zen Orchestra remove PIF issue has APR. Should be fixed. Awesome. Yes. I forgot to say his name, but Applard. I reached out to him because he's really good and really interesting, and a fellow person who lives in Michigan. So definitely neat person. I really liked some of his videos. Yeah, there's plenty of places for the novices to start, like I said. It's the same reason I don't do like basic 101 tech videos. I don't need to. There's so many of them out there that cover some of the more basic setup of tech. That's one of the reasons I start where I start, as opposed to like, hey, here's DNS 101. I mean, I cover DNS usually from an advanced standpoint, but I also get people who go, oh, I want you to cover, Tom, like, do a networking 101 course. I'm like, I just don't have the time to do it. And by the way, there's a lot of great 101 courses out there. I try to lean towards just the advanced, but I absolutely, people need a place to get started. And if you don't know how to turn a computer on, I'm probably not the place to start. But once you figure out how to turn it on, and once you've got Linux loaded, because people ask you, I don't do a lot of tutorials on like how to load Ubuntu. And I'm like, there's not a shortage of those videos right now. There's a lot of good, high quality ones. So I just tend to lean on towards the advanced side of things. Hey, Tom and Chad, I stuck to my word and got net data installed. Still have some setting up to do. Doesn't seem to show scale app info. Uh, hmm. Hello, Thailand. Internet here is cheap but limited stock. You have a problem. You hope I help. All right. Christian Lempa, he's on the list too. That's why I need to make a page for all these people. These are all great people to follow. Christian Lempa doesn't participate in the group very often. We invite him to the group. He just doesn't come in there very often, and that's fine. But his content's solid. He's a great creator. Yeah, CGNAT is definitely less than fun. There's no doubt about that. Let's go over to. Oh, here, let me pull it up here. There you go. Actually, I should switch to the lab version. There we go. Got to share these updates. I got a server to update. So let's do that update while I'm chattering about things. There we go. So there's some new releases, some new security updates. I believe it's in the blog post. Let's see what they are. I'm going to load them anyways. They just came out. There we go. December security updates. Let's see. We got here. Zen and Linux firmware and the controller domain have fixed several vulnerabilities. We also published them with maintenance updates, which we got ready and tested during public testing window for security updates. x86 IOMMU quarantine page table levels. Device in quarantine mode using DOM0 could access leaked data from previously quarantined pages. It's not enabled by default in XCPG, but can still be enabled at boot time. Oh, yeah. This is one of the nice things. The team at Vates is really careful about how they design XCP-ng. It's extremely security first. This is why it's been so popular in the security ecosystems and large scale providers. So you said Electronic Wizardry has great Proxmox content. All right, I'll check that out. What do you use for SIEM? We use Blumera. I did a video recently, a sponsored post on Blumera, but Blumera is what we use for our SIEM tool right now at CNWR. What method do you use to monitor the quality of internet links, meaning detect degraded performance or not just outages? Nothing. It's not really been an issue. We do speed tests if there's an issue. There's rarely an issue. And I don't understand the people who, unless you're having a problem, I don't set up regular speed tests or monitoring tests. It's just not that often if there's a problem. But sometimes people will do that. They set up constantly running speed tests on there, and then they want to complain every time it goes a little bit down. That's going to happen if you have a lot of traffic on there. It's not going to be the perfect amount every single time. So we generally just monitor for outages, and that's adequate, unless we're experiencing some problem or the client is experiencing some problem that prompts us to actually do this. Oh yeah, XCP-ng is getting way more popular with the train wreck that is the the VMware purchase and everyone getting laid off. I feel bad for all the people that got laid off, and it seems to be chaos over there. Let's see other changes and improvements. Linux firmware, AMD microcode update, drop updating the family Zen AMD XP advisory does not support SEV yet, and therefore is not directly impacted. Small change to suppress GPU mon data, updated time zones, vendor drivers. Updated drivers for Intel i225 and 226, updated Realtek drivers, updated Broadcom drivers. So that's it. Pretty simple update. So here's all the missing patches. Let's just go ahead and install the patches. This will automatically restart the tool stack on every host. Sure, I'm fine with that. So, yep, now we're installing patches. This is the host. There's only one host in this pool. So I'll give it a minute and let it do its thing. Yes, the folks at Blumera, I'm going to have one of their team members on to talk about pulling logs from Windows and tools you can use to do it. They do a lot. Windows is obviously going to be king when it comes to that. So I'm going to get one of their hackers, because it's definitely someone who's really good at hacking some stuff. She spoke at a lot of conferences. She'll be doing a talk with me, and we'll talk about Windows logging. That's going to be coming up maybe in the next week. I got to check her schedule and figure out when we can align to do the talk together. Oh, there we go. We've installed the patches. Security concerns with running pfSense in a VM are really more about you than pfSense. So if you do not configure the WAN properly and you let the WAN touch the other networks, there is more of a potential for that. So if you're not dedicating an interface for it, there's a potential for it to get goofed up by you inadvertently exposing something to WAN. That is the most likely scenario for security problems. Is it normal for the GPU performance so low at Proxmox VM that is it normal for GPU performance low at Proxmox VM than the Windows installed directly? Yeah, once you virtualize it, you're going to have a bad time. You always are taking sacrifices when you virtualize things. Hey, look, it came back. Have you heard about password manager, safe in cloud from a Russian developer, stores data in a database file? I have no idea. I use Bitwarden. Bitwarden goes through regular security audits. They're, to me, the gold standard when it comes to transparency of how the company operates. So I just stay with Bitwarden. They work well. They're well integrated. They're very transparent. You can self-host it. I just don't bother with other ones. What VPN do you recommend with pfSense connect from a low-speed network? Maybe OpenVPN. I guess it depends on your needs. WireGuard and OpenVPN are both fine. It comes more down to your use case, but any of them work fine over low speed. So is Tailscale. I really like Tailscale, especially for new people starting out. Tailscale is one of the easiest ones out there. How do you prefer to handle WAN failover to avoid the primary link being activated back and forth when it's not 100% down, but losing packets? You set the thresholds. That's the solution to that. Figure out a different threshold if it's just bouncing. That's the only thing you can really do, is you set how long the threshold is or how much packet loss you're willing to tolerate before it's back and forth. You can adjust those and fine tune the settings. CrowdSec, do you use any machines? Not right this moment, but I probably will. I used to use it on my old site, and I just haven't set it up on my new site yet. It's on my to-do list. Wanted to ask if it's okay to have TrueNAS one pool, 3 disks, and RAID Z1, and back it up to a second pool in the same machine that consists of one drive the same size as the first pool. It works, but if something physically happens to the machine, then you just have 2 copies in one machine. So you only have like a limited amount of backup that way. Ideally, backup should be a separate machine. Ideally, more so, they should be off-site, but it's certainly better than nothing. How would you compare Blumera to Wazoo? So this question has come before. There's not much of a comparison. Wazoo is definitely a neat tool, but it's a very manual tool compared to something like Blumera being a very automated tool. And Blumera has a ton of cloud integrations for enrichment that you're not going to get with Wazoo. So Wazoo's neat. I definitely think people should test it out. I think it's an excellent Homelab project. It's not really the same. It's not a scalable project to run multi-tenant systems like we do and monitor client security. It's definitely great. It's been made popular because Wazoo has been sponsoring YouTube channels. They sponsored a video from Network Chuck, and they sponsored a video with John Hammond. And this is, certainly brought it more into the popular, because they're sponsored. But they've reached out to me about sponsoring it. I haven't had the time or said yes. I'm also very careful about taking sponsorship. I have a content code of ethics, but the problem is the moment money comes across, no matter what I tell you, once I declare I was paid to say or paid to do a tutorial or paid to say how the product works, there's an immediate bias you may have towards me. And it's almost hard not to have some level of bias when someone's paying you to make a product tutorial. I am really, it's one of the reasons I do so a lot of them, because I have such a hard time with it, is when it comes to doing a sponsored review, I've only got a couple on the channel. They're all labeled in a playlist called sponsored. I make it as clear up front as possible that they're sponsored, because I want to make sure all biases are always disclosed. And I feel it doesn't, I can give my opinion on Wazoo with no bias, because even though they offered to pay me money, I have not replied. I replied and said, I'll think about it. And that's where that sits right now. And when you learn how much money these companies are willing to pay some of the YouTubers like us, like these numbers sometimes can get up there in the $40,000-$50,000 to do tutorials to get their product out there. It's not like they gave us $100. This is, if you once you get a really successful YouTube channel, you can charge quite a bit to a sponsor, but it also costs quite a bit to run a YouTube channel. So there's a lot of consideration here. It's not like the money's just falling from the sky to do this, but obviously it's hard not to be biased. If someone says, if I give you $40,000 to do a tutorial series, would you do it? And then not be biased at all? I don't. That's my rant on that topic. Dumb question. What's the difference between reserving a static IP address at the router level for a computer versus statically assigned a computer? Do you assign at both levels? I do. That way, if I have to reload something, it always gets the same IP address. And sometimes, because if my DHCP server could be down, I might assign it. Mostly, I rarely do it at the computer level, but some devices require it. Like if you're setting up servers, they kind of expect them not to be DHCP. So I'll leave the servers not DHCP because they don't want to be. But if they get an IP address, they're going to get that reserved IP address. So I actually lean towards always 100% of the time reserving all IP addresses of permanent things, or even really testing things on my network. With the exception of random VMs I spin up, all servers, all switches, all devices, I always put static reservations in. UniFi has been busy releasing new gateway products, but apparently CrowdSec plugin for pfSense is being worked on. It is being worked on. I don't have a release date for it, but I've been talking to parties involved. I'm going to, I don't know how I can encourage it, but I'm going to reach out to the parties involved to see if I can't figure out why it's not done. I feel like it could be done sooner. I don't know. We'll figure that out. I just got tail set up properly tonight. Did some tests a while ago, just in time the family away. Fam loves movies and shows. Yes. Easy to set up, and the free option is very generous, for sure. How do you handle automatic install and provision of VMs? I don't handle it. I just clone my existing VMs. But you can use Terraform if that's your thing. Terraform works with XCP and G. I think Terraform works for Proxmox too. So those are a couple options. I don't know who DSP Gaming is, so no idea why I sound like them. Actually, the server's up to date, but it's going to tell me I need to reboot to apply some updates. So let's go here. We're going to stop all these systems running so I can reboot this. How do you manage mail servers? If I increasingly complicated to host it ourselves, I don't. I recommend people not do it. I was a mail server admin forever, like since the 90s. I started managing mail servers in like 98, I think. And I just gave up on it. Like I probably around 2016 is when I threw in the towel. I'm like, hey, 18 years of managing mail servers, I'm good. There's no easy way to manage it. We don't do it for any of our clients. There is no path to contacting us and going, will you host a mail server? And I'm like, oh yeah, for $1 million a month, I'll do it. I wouldn't touch it for less than that. I don't want to do it. I mean, I'll give you a number that's ridiculous to do it. So if someone I have people that really push me on it. Oh, come on, give me a price. Oh, here's a ridiculous price. If you're willing to come up with that kind of money, then you can do it. But I don't recommend running your own mail server. I recommend setting it up and learning about it because it's a good exercise in understanding how mail transport works. I don't recommend doing it. It's just not a great task. It's one of those things, like mail servers are one of those things that I'm not big on self-hosting. It's too hard to stay off the list. One of the other topics that have come up about this before is Linode is a popular place. They've been a sponsor of like the Homelab show, and Akamai bought them. But this is something I think Alan Jude talked about from 2.5 Admins. Microsoft decided to block all mail servers on Linode for 6 months. End of story. So anyone hosting them there, you had no choice. You suddenly lost access to being able to email anyone who had a Microsoft account. Then Microsoft, after lots of complaining and people doing it, 6 months later, decided to unblock that Linode. That's the problem with it, is you don't know if someone's just going to block you. And when I say block you, and this is the problem why I got out of the mail server stuff, I used to host my own mail server, and I said, I can't do this anymore. It was just my personal one because people just aren't getting my emails. Gmail would randomly block me. I was using, good, clean IP addresses I had for years, and they would still get on block lists. It's just a pain. Is the device sent for review allowed to be kept in similar pay for you? So that's a good question. If that's considered pay or not, that's a fuzzy area. So yes, people send me devices. I don't think of them as paid reviews if I get to keep them, because I'm not selling them for money. Then I would definitely consider it paid. I have them. I torture test them. I declare in the beginning of the video if something was sent to me, but I don't think of it as pay. I think of it as a trade for me reviewing it. Now, like the example is easy, that R86 device I got, I definitely received it from the person and did a review. Would I have ordered it myself to review it? Probably not. Versus this is my next thing I'm going to work on a review, maybe tonight. I haven't decided. Let me pull it up right here. This, on the other hand, I purchased with my money, and because UniFi doesn't send me things anymore. So I am reviewing this UniFi device, the little UniFi Mini, and there's no bias at all because I purposely bought it myself because I want to review it. So obviously, and these are one of the reasons I actually prefer buying things myself, because I got the money to do it. It just removes any implied bias for things. Any thoughts on the UniFi logo security thing? Yes, it's stupid. I mean, it's a security concern. It's also a dumb problem to have. But yes, I'm a Reddit, and my thoughts on it are yes, that's silly. Why do you use XCP&G over Proxmox? XCP&G is used way more in the commercial market than Proxmox. XCP&G scales to larger size systems than Proxmox. And we do a lot of support for it. We have clients, I've talked about this before. We even had someone we helped move over 2,000 virtual machines off of VMware. We have clients, big companies, very large. There's companies in the Fortune 1000 that are using this. Not the Citrix. They moved from Citrix to XCP&G. They're in the Fortune 1000 list. There are clients we've worked with and done consulting on to help sort all these problems out with their virtualization stack. So yes, it's very used. So we use it. It's one of those things. So that's my familiarity with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with Proxmox. And for Homelab, it might even be a better choice for people looking at some of the way Proxmox integrations work, and it gives you a lot of features under the hood. Yeah, I don't know that the UXG Lite looks like something that'll make the MSP people happy, but I think it's going to make a lot of home users happy. I think it's a neat device. That's why I bought it. I think it's a good competitor for their other older product, the UniFi Dream Machine, which I'm going to do a follow-up on the original pill bottle one, because I still have one of those and it works fine. So I'm going to do a follow-up on the pill bottle one, talk about the new one. And yes, I think it's a good buy. I mean, too long didn't watch my video. It's definitely a good choice. You are using Bitwarden or VaultWarden because of which free opportunities? As for me, if you install a password manager, then it should be a full-fledged one with all the functions. I pay for Bitwarden. I don't use Vault Warden. I have a license for Bitwarden. What do you think of the new UniFi Express? I think it's a versatile product. I don't know about versatile. I think it's a good product. I talked about my tail scale and the derp servers in my videos on head scale and tail scale. I don't really have a lot more to say about them. I mean, opening ports is going to help avoid some of the derp servers. If for some reason you have a firewall blocking things, if you integrate it into your PF Sense, you can avoid the derp servers as well. Running your own mail server is a total pain. Yes. Keeping on top of threats and everything else. Yeah. Okay, it was Jim Salter who had the Linode email show. I was one of the people from. I'm bad with their names because there's 3 of them on there, and I have a hard time just in general. I can't remember people's names, but I remember what they talk about. So yes, been playing with ZFS-C1 and RAID 5 for the last couple of days. Raw throughput, in my experience, wipes the floor with ZFS. Have you thought about experimenting with other file systems? It kind of depends. It depends on how you set it up. That's and of course the ARC cache is substantially better than the way caching works on MDADM RAID, and the integrity of your data and features you get with ZFS blows away MDADM RAID. So it kind of depends on. There's nothing wrong with MDM RAID, but you just don't get all the features of ZFS. It's not a fair comparison at all. It's kind of like, I could make some crazy analogy, but I'm not going to go into that right now. You get the idea. They're not the same thing. On the surface, they have the same basic function. I guess I'll use this analogy. My Dodge truck, you can compare to a large Freightliner that can carry 40,000 pounds. They're both trucks, and here in America, by definition, they both will take you to a place. They have wheels and a steering wheel, but they're extremely different use cases. Is Citrix still part of XCPD, or wasn't it previously Zen server? No, Citrix used to maintain Zen server, which was turned into a product they called what was Citrix's old name? Citrix calls it Zen server now. Citrix has created some name confusion because they don't like the fact that Vates took the source code, because this was an open source project that was managed by Citrix, partially open source, because Citrix would put some open source and then mix in a bunch of licenses for closed source. And they said, why don't this whole thing could be open source? And Citrix is doing a terrible job of the community. So Vates, circa 2017, I have a whole video going over the history of this. You can find on my channel. But basically, Vates open sourced the whole project and respun it. Do you use Ceph on your KVM deployments? I don't have any KVM deployments, and if we manage Ceph, it's going to be a standalone Ceph cluster. Oh yeah, what's the UniFi? The UniFi Express. XCPNG has dark mode. They will in the next version. Well, it's not XCPNG. Zen Orchestra in the next version will have dark mode. Let's see. Make sure the server came back up. Hey, look, all the stuff's running again. So, and the host is fully patched. We did that live. It's so simple to patch. This is one of the nice things. XCPNG, you could even do just rolling pool updates. They make it really easy to patch all the servers. If you had $500 to $1,000 to build a Homelab for beginner, basic router, ideally PF Sense, small 8-port switch, small 1 PC with Proxmox, do you have any ideas, recommendations? I really like the UniFi for manageability, but if you're going for the cheapest budget, you're probably going to look at something like the MeekerTick. That's the word I was looking for. MeekerTick does really good for the basic, cover your routing functions and things like that for the cheapest price. Hardware wise, I don't think the SG1100 is a bad idea. So that's another option. But the I'm trying to think of what else would be in there for that list. Yeah, probably that. Then the mini PCs. There's a lot of choices on the mini PCs too. So, hey Tom, you ever changed the manager interface in XCPG cluster pool? If so, what's your experience? We tried to change manager interface to a bond interface. It didn't like that. I try to set them up in the beginning and not set them up later, but I have changed them, but I rarely change them to a bonded interface. So if there's a bug in there, I don't know, because I don't ever need the management interface to be bonded. By the way, something I don't have one plugged in right now to show. Um, you can connect these to the non-management interfaces and they still work. So there's ways to get it to work on both ways, even when it's non-management. Maybe I'll do a video talking on that topic. Have you switched your pfSense DSP back on IKEA? No. It's not feature complete, therefore I don't use it. When I hear Citrix, I think Citrix bleed. Yep. I'm looking for a password single factor with my YuKey on Windows sessions, but have to pay for Microsoft OnTrust subscription for that. It's a shame. Do you know alternatives? Yeah, I use Linux. That's my alternative solution. Microsoft is barely security as a company unless they figure out how to upsell you on security, and then you get to buy whatever security they upsell you on until they screw it up. I just truly I'm aggravated about the marketplace and Microsoft's involvement in it at any given moment. I cannot help but express frustration dealing with Microsoft constantly. They are just a truly awful company. There's just in no way I like them. I hate when people say, "Oh, they did so much good for the market." No, they destroyed so many things in the market. And here's another article. This is just the most recent of Microsoft's goofiness. Once they get a monopoly on things, they completely quit caring about security, like this. So I knew this before it was out of embargo. I was talking about this to some of my security friends, and they gave Microsoft time to fix it. This is now on the "we don't care, we won't fix it" yes. This is a way you can use DHCP reservations to spoof DNS records to steal secrets. And Microsoft won't fix this. This is like, yeah, we're not going to fix that. That's not our problem. We're not going to address it. So it's been dropped because Microsoft doesn't care. So it's mind numbing because I have to deal with Windows to make I have to mitigate this is where I find my job to be weird. My task as an IT services company is to secure clients. Microsoft is the only game in town, so I have to deal with it because that's what my clients have to run. There's not a solution to run their line of business applications on not Windows systems because of Microsoft's monopoly. But people are now burdened with spending money with a third-party company to try to put security around a company that's worth $1 trillion. And yeah, I don't know. That's my little circular rant on it. Every time I see Citrix news because they're trying to get someone to buy them. Yeah. No one wants to buy that pile of garbage. Well, one of my staff they're updating systems right now. It's just like I am. Answered their question for them. Let's see here. Which one? I have not tested much of the new UniFi cameras. I did test one of the turret ones, but let's see. On TrueNAS, it's easy to have a backup replicating AWS S3, looking for an online place to put things up. You can do it too. I prefer Backblaze, but it should work fine with AWS S3 as well. Will you leave a recording of the broadcast? The thing is, I don't understand English well, but in the future, I'd like to look at translation from a neural network. I always leave these broadcasts up, so yes. Hi from Budapest. Proxmox has 2 advantages for Homelab. Cluster setup is easy. HA cluster storage with integrated Ceph management. Yeah, those are good points for Homelab. How do you manage DHCP snooping and UniFi switch? As I see, is there no option to set up specific port? I believe they call it DHCP guarding. Never heard of a Freddy Burger. UniFi UXG, haven't found a way to change a port for my IPsec VPN and pfSense. It's no problem. Yeah, you'll run into a lot of limitations with the way it works in UniFi. This is one of the aggravations. It's like it's so tedious to look at a feature set and go, hey, look, these two devices have the same features. They're not implemented the same way. There's nuances to actually using them. Then you go, oh, I can't do this or I can't do that. That's when you start having all the problems. And I don't know. That's why it's so hard to do a comparison, because you can run down that list, but until you've actually used these in production, then you realize what the differences are. Any recommendations for open source documentation systems like Confluence? I think Bookstack, I think it's what it's called. Bookstack is pretty cool. So if you're looking for something that's more Confluence like, check out Bookstack. It's open source. I believe they have a Docker install. They certainly have a demo. So let's see here. Yeah. This is a nice little tool. I think Bookstack's pretty neat. Any recommendation for someone trying to move from WatchGuard firewalls over to pfSense? Watch my videos on how to use pfSense. I don't really have another. I don't know if I have another answer for that one. Once you learn pfSense, and if you already are pretty good at firewalls, learning pfSense is not that hard. You just got to figure out where the buttons are. I have a TrueNAS replication task S3 compatible provider. Works perfectly. Awesome. Any issues with going to Cobia from Bluefin? The only problems, and are noted in my review video, is if you have encrypted data sets and you want nested unencrypted. So if you start with a base encrypted and have nested encrypted, you have problems. If your primary pool is unencrypted, there's no problems. And if you only care about having encrypted things on the all the way down, that should be fine too. Does UniFi have an option for auto updating? Yes, they do. That's one of the things I really like about UniFi. This is one of the reasons when I'm looking for things for home users, I think these are great because the auto update option, I believe it's probably on by default, and that's awesome. We use internally Bookstack and works with less technical people, also gets frequent updates and features. Yeah, Bookstack has been popular for a long time. I've tweeted out a couple times when people have asked. I don't use it. I've tested it and I said, oh, this is nice. I just don't have a need for that right now. So that's why I'm not using it. Do you have a way to tell which port Ethernet ESC is making problems? That's more of a question of, does your switch tell you which port is making problems? Not all switches give up that information. I read the docs in UB and they say DHCP guard works well when you use UDM. For me, it causes a lot of DORA timeouts. I mean, are you that worried about someone putting DHCP on your network? I get why you need to. It's just if you're worried about security, I mean, yes, it's good to have, but it's not like we have over 100 customers, and it's very rare that I can find any ticket where our problem was someone stuck a second DHCP server on there. So I know there's a few tickets in there probably for it, but it's pretty low on the list of problems that come up. Not an impossible problem, just not the most common one that someone's bringing and plugging something in. Really, if you just do notifications of anything new on the network, that's often enough, because once something new on the network is on the network, that should trigger a ticket. If something new on the network triggers a ticket, then you can go, okay, let's start investigating what this new thing. Oh, look, someone put a router on the network that's handing out DHCP addresses. Good morning. Thank you for all your videos. You have helped me get my Homelab up and running. I have 15 different services running in Docker. Thought it's on a backup solution. I'm looking at Duplicati. Duplicati should be fine. Just however you're doing it, even if it's just rsync, because I just rsync some things for backup, and it works great. It's simple and gets the job done. Have you tried using Synology NAS to back up to Backblaze personally, since it's unlimited storage? It only has B2 Cloud as an option. I use B2 Cloud. I don't use any of the free consumer stuff. I've always just used their B2 Cloud. I like their B2 Cloud. It's not that expensive. Of course, I say not that expensive. I do realize people's budgets are different. I have found it to be reasonably priced. I have 190 UniFi AP Pros. How can I extract the Wi-Fi passwords of the users from M365 for free? You want to extract the Wi-Fi password. I don't understand what you're trying to do. You want the Wi-Fi password off of the... I don't understand. Maybe that's a better forum post, because I don't know what you're trying. I don't know the goal. If you update the ZFS pool features, you can't roll them back. That's very true. This is true for any update. When you do TrueNAS updates on Scale or on Core, once the update occurs and you update the feature sets of the underlying ZFS pool, you cannot go back to the previous versions. I say it definitively. Very likely you won't be able to go back. There could be some circumstance where a feature flag is allowed, and maybe it'll still read the pool. I don't know, but honestly, it could create all kinds of other problems. So I don't recommend it. Once you upgrade, you don't upgrade the feature sets on the ZFS pool until you are confident that the version you have moved to, you're going to stay with. Sorry, just trying, was that a UniFi Express? Yes, it was. Once I had an incident with someone connected Wi-Fi router and then spoofed the whole network and was at school. Rare situations, but definitely can happen. Yeah. I would consider schools a high-risk environment where you should have things like DHCP guarding on. Currently running products Max might give XCP and GeoGo to support PCIe pass-through, have a NIC and HPA card I need. It does support it. They have documentation on it. I don't have any videos on it because I just don't use it. Trying to get my Kate's workers nodes into a VIP for Talos Linux so they can all share an IP without being on a DHCP lease. It seems to be lacking information how VIPs work after seeing your vid. Am I using a wrong tool for the job, or should go back to manually assigning leases to my cluster machines instead of VIPs? I don't know why you would assign a VIP via PF-Sense, I'm assuming, to a cluster machine. I don't understand what the goal is, because I've never tried to do... You assign VIPs to PF-Sense. It does not assign VIPs to systems. In which cases VLAN makes sense, like Homelab stuff. VLANs are just virtual LANs. So if you have reasons to separate things, but using the same cable. So an example I use in business that we use a lot is, you may have a big building and you have a shipping department at the back of the building, and you have an office with a bunch of people in there and a bunch of things in the front of the building, and you want to have multiple networks. You could either A, run multiple wires across the whole building, or B, use VLANs, and then you partition out the switches to provide the different networks. So it comes down to your use case. Recently, I tried my hand at Ansible. Thank you for your videos in Ansible Semaphore. Oh, yeah. I don't think I did the Ansible Semaphore video. Christian Lempa did, and maybe Jay did it. But either way, I've talked about Ansible. And I've recommended Semaphore, I think, on the Homelab channel. What do you plan on doing at the UniFi Express? I plan on reviewing it. I bought it to review. Yes, I use a firewall. Did you ever have to recover company from ransomware? What's your experience? It's a mess. Yes, it's a disaster. But I mean, the experience sucks. We've had a recent person. They weren't our active client. They were someone who used us in the past for consulting. and we gave recommendations. They didn't follow any of them, and they got ransomware. Then they called us, and we referred them out to an incident response company because the problems and the scale that they happened at and the size of that company, they were pretty big, and there's not enough of us to get that company restored. Even if we pulled all of our employees together, the company's pretty big, so we had to refer them out to a bigger incident response company. But the reason we referred them isn't just because it's a scale and scope problem. It's because they didn't have an insurance. Because normally we don't get to pick who the IR team is; the insurance company does. But this big company who did not follow security recommendations also didn't follow the recommendation to get cybersecurity insurance. But of course, they were doing everything in a very bad way. So if they would have paid for cybersecurity insurance, the claim would have been denied because they weren't following any of the procedures. Matter of fact, this is something we're trying to push towards with people now is, did you lie on your insurance form? We're just asking, not because we're the insurance company, but we're going to let you know that if you pay money for cybersecurity insurance and you also lie on those forums, you are also there's no way around it. You're going to get your claim denied. You actually don't have insurance if you're lying on the forms. It's a hard pill to swallow, folks, but if you lied and said you have 2FA and you lie and say you have all these offsite backups, but you don't have these things, you'll find that the insurance company will deny your ransomware claim. That's the insurance companies are not in the giving away money business. They're in the insurance business. And that is not something people completely understand, is how many claims get denied, because it's not a news statistic that people talk about much. But if you say you're doing things that you're not doing, you're going to have a bad time. If Santa was to bring you one piece of equipment he couldn't afford, what would it be? Time. I need more time. Helping one of my staff, he's got a host emergency. I would just actually bring him in and join the live stream here, but I'm going to instead just send him the instructions of what he needs to do. All right. I gave him the instructions on how to solve, hopefully, the problem on there. But a time machine I can't afford one. More like it doesn't exist. Having backups is good. Knowing how to restore the backups is better. The way I word that is really simple. Nobody cares about a backup that works. Everyone wants a restore that works. That's what really matters. Today I learned there is a cybersecurity insurance. Yes. I have 190 UniFi AP Pro managed on my UniFi Gen 2. When the users connect to Wi-Fi, I want them to connect via Azure AD passwords. Can I do this for free? You would need to set up I forget what the name's eluding me at the moment, cache miss, but you'd have to do the tie-in from like a Radius server and set that all up inside of Windows. Certainly not something I can walk you through here. I don't even have a video on it. It's not that it can't be done. It's just complicated. So as long as you understand how to tie all that together, and I believe you have to tie it to an on-prem server. I don't know that you can tie it to an Entra ID server in the cloud. I think you have to have at least one on-prem AD server that probably also is connected to their Entra ID authentication. But yeah, there's a way to make that work. But to migrate pfSense solution with multiple OpenVPNs with about 300 low bandwidth clients, I'm a bit scared on the scaling. Any tips hardware using pfSense at all? Buy a fast machine. Buy one of we usually sell people the high-end Netgate appliances. Those who lie in security audits are not looking for security, looking for compliance. Sure are. Which software firewall? I don't know. UFW is fine. IP tables is fine. I'm 40 minutes late to the party, but your server's set up race idea. How about getting 3 or 4 of your buddies that are proficient in each? So 6 people competing steps. Oh yeah. If I can get that, you know how hard it is to schedule people? That's been the real challenge. Tom is doing live consulting with his own crew. Yes, we are. Let me tell him. Right, they are. He sent me a screenshot. I'm looking at it in real time here. I think that's the problem. I think I found his problem. He's not going to like this answer. So the system seems to have lost all of its drives. I'm sending him a screenshot of a working system because he ain't going to like this answer. Yeah, real-time tech support. This is a working system. All right. I'll do tech support for all of you. I'll do tech support for any of my staff that ping me. He's got kind of a mess he's dealing with. Opinions on Observium for Homelabs, maybe advanced use cases for all business. I don't use Observium, so I have no opinion on it. Some people seem to like it. I've never used it. How to manage YouTube live stream and do external consulting at the same time? Yes. AI and firewalls. What are you going to see coming years? A lot more BS and a lot more overhype and a lot more overcharging for the BS and hype. The concept is there. Whether or not it'll get properly implemented, I will see. For rackable Homelab NAS, HL15 is going to be way more flexible than the TrueNAS Mini R, but I have both, and I have both. I like both. There's more flexibility though, and definitely more speed in the HL15. The HL15 is a whole lot faster. The TrueNAS Mini R, the biggest problem with the TrueNAS Mini R is really this. Let me pull it up real quick. I like my TrueNAS Mini R. It's just slow. That's the part that drives me nuts is this right here. Like they chose to put this Intel Atom CPU, and I'm sorry, that Atom CPU kind of sucks. It's fine for most people's use case, but when you're comparing the two, it's way faster to go with, but more money, by the way, and more wattage, more power usage. So if you can afford it, I think the faster is better. But if you don't need it, and for my example, this is how I edit all my videos on a TrueNAS Mini R. It's perfectly adequate to use 10 gig and edit videos and actually run the services that run on it perfectly fine. I run SyncThing and a few other, like here's my applications on it. I have a couple. Oh, I didn't turn this one off. I have rsync. I'm not really using this. I tested it and didn't like it. I need to update this. So let's go ahead and update that while we're here. But yeah, SyncThing runs fine. NetData runs fine. NetData and SyncThing are my two like must-haves for apps. Here's a fun trivia question. Can I share this screen? Yes, no, it won't let me. I was gonna say it's too hard for me to switch and share this one right here. But there's an answer to his question. Snapshots show up as a file. If you are looking at the raw VDIs in a file, he's dealing with a Zen server problem at a commercial client. The other things you see are actually the snapshots. So you don't just see the VDIs of the servers, you actually see their snapshots as well. Cool. I threw a few more things. I wish I could show, if it didn't have all the client stuff on the screen, I would be more than happy to bring him on and we do the troubleshooting. All the stuff I'm telling him, like, there's not often we have problems. Obviously for as many servers we have, I think the problems are few and far between, but I do want to, maybe I'll break a server so I can do a live stream of showing how to fix it. Can you make a video on how to recover data from various CFS pool structures? Wendell made that video, and it's incredibly complicated. There's no easy way to do it. There's really not much you can do. If you lose the data on CFS, it's faster to restore from backups. It took Wendell months of working and playing with tools to get any data back from that Linus event. He's got a whole video on it. Once you see how complicated it is, you know why there's no one making videos, because there's only a handful of people that can do it. The two people that I know can do it did the video together. I think it was Wendell and someone else made the video just about ZFS recovery. It's not something I recommend doing. As described, I got OpenVPN tied to Entra ID. The sync is an on-site AD server. Yep. Yeah, I would Netgate 8200 or 1537 are good high-end systems. The 1537 is pretty fast. Did I miss people giving you guff for not changing name to Sunday Show? Live switch to live coding. I've been watching the background of our crew. Is it possible to set up router on a stick and layer 3 basic routing on a UniFi switch Gen 1? No. It is not. Not that I know of. Tom needs to do live consulting to colleagues on a Sunday. That means companies' documentation is bad. No, it's one of those things where when a server takes a complete dive, and it's not a matter of documentation necessarily. It's one of those, we've exhausted the documentation and it still hasn't completely hit it. So the person doing the work on call on a Sunday is hitting some documentation limits with a pretty extensive problem. So I don't know about documentation being really bad, but this will get added to the documentation of process for things. Do you know a good way to get UniFi OS network consoles to recognize all the clients in a network and show model info while running a pfSense router in the way without pfSense? I don't know. I have no idea how to get the UniFi to show that information. Oh, you've seen an Exact Vision VM. Yeah, that's testing for, we have some customers using Exact Vision. Still be super interested to see a live stream if you're working at even it's impossible as with confidentiality problems. That's the biggest challenge, is the confidentiality problems. What do you think about staff members and people in IT using AI chatbots to solve problems, get the steps, configure things? Yes, I encourage people to do it. How do you think of moving UniFi? Would there be a big learning curve from pfSense of moving to UniFi? You're going to lose features. You're going to end up with a firewall that's harder to do rules on, in my opinion, than pfSense, but it's not impossible. Now, this is something that I think should be in the documentation. It's not. There is a log he's missing. I know where it is exactly. There are logs in yeah. All right, so I've cleared up all that. But I wouldn't switch my fire. I mean, it depends. I prefer pfSense as a firewall because it's more flexible, has more features. If you don't need those features, then it doesn't really matter. You don't have heavy script of the cron job step? No, I do not. Yeah, it's cool because it can do the auto updates. I believe Cobia has some features for auto updates. I think you can turn that on now. Let me look. Is there an auto update on here? I don't want them to auto update because I already had to roll this one back. This one I can probably get rid of. I'm not using this one anymore. I'll update it anyways for now, but I don't think I'm going to keep using it. The Homer update broke it, so I had to roll it back. I don't know why it broke. I didn't really dig into why. Router on a stick is a Cisco word for VLANs on a router. Yeah, but the question they had was, can I do it with just the switch and not a UniFi gateway? I mean, you need some other firewall to do it. I also think it's a terrible idea. It's a fun learning curve, but usually you aren't port limited on things so much that you need to do it. Do you use Cloudflare certificates for the apps on TrueNAS? Nope, I do not. I guess I could. I've played with Cloudflare tunnels. I spin them up for demos. I don't usually leave them on because I don't like trusting a third party to proxy things. Been watching for years. Appreciate the knowledge. Awesome. Is there a view plugin you recommend for pfSense? Yes. NTOP NG. I got a video on it. So the TrueNAS Mini R would be fine for running core and being a mass storage, whereas HL15 would be better for scale. It depends what you're using that storage for. For example, one of the problems I've had with the Mini R is this little processor here does not do well if you have really intense workloads for like virtual machines. So if I'm using this as a storage target for my VM system, it doesn't handle high volumes of NFS or iSCSI very well. It just starts choking on the processor. Processor hits 100%. And you can't get the data. But for sequential data, such as editing videos, it has no problem connecting and editing that at high speed. It just doesn't have enough bandwidth to do thousands of little writes and keep up with it at any speed. Can't you put your UniFi inside the pfSense system? No. Highly not recommended. There's hacky ways to make that work. I can't recommend them at all. He sent me some error logs. All right, got that fixed. What is the best way to back up one TrueNAS scale server to another? Good question. The best way to do it is under data protection, build your replication tasks. As you can see, I have a series of replication tasks here. This is the way to do it, the best way. So this copies all my video to the purple NAS. Actually, all these get destined for the purple NAS. So Tom's backup to purple, my video archive to purple. So these are all the options for doing that. At least those are my favorite ways to do it. Will you make a video about proxies? Not likely. HA proxy is the one I'm using. There's plenty of other people making videos about proxy. I don't use other proxies. I'm only using HA proxy, and there's nothing new to add to that video. That video for HA proxy is still relevant. UniFi Express for a family member. My PF Sense with UniFi Cloud Key switches. Family member currently has PF Sense TP Link S4, but the UniFi looks like an easy, dumb solution. Yes, I agree completely. When hosting Bitwarden, does it allow you to download encrypted XML file of all your passwords in case your home lab blows up? Sure does. More importantly, I have Bitwarden itself backed up. That's the more important part, is making sure that you have backups of all the Bitwarden data. Bitwarden actually has, let me pull this up here. Bitwarden creates a backup of all the data, and I have a backup of that data, and I actually have the Bitwarden SQL backed up. So I still go a step further and back up my XML files, but right here is all the different Vault backups I have. So I even have 30 days of Vault backups that are synced with SyncThing, which I love SyncThing for things, because this backs up all my things, my notes, my phone. So as I take pictures, they automatically get synchronized to all the places I want them synchronized to in my lab. SyncThing is kind of my go-to from a back-end real-time backups. What is the experience of net data memory usage? I see over time heavy memory usage, which can lead to problems on smaller systems. If the system is that memory restricted, then don't, but I haven't really had an issue with it. It doesn't take up that much memory. But yeah, if you're trying to run this on some type of tiny device that doesn't have much memory, then you would have to be considerate of what you're running on there. Considering self-hosted Bitwarden for a dark site, I mean, that's an option. You can just back it up. Even if you're not using self-hosted, you could just back up the file once in a while. And if the Bitwarden server's offline, if you're using the Bitwarden desktop, and I think the desktop one's a little bit better for this, or you're using the Bitwarden plugin, the default option is if they can't contact the server, they still work. So if the server's down, I can still get to all of my passwords because they're cached in the apps. Can I use a cloud key with a UniFi switch to still get all the features without the gateway and have PF Sense as my gateway and firewall? That's the solution I use all the time. That's how all of our UniFi stuff, even the UniFi stuff I have at home, is all done exactly like that. Let me log into it real quick. Which one am I in? So here's my network with my stuff, and you notice there's a lack of a gateway in here. So these are all my UniFi devices without using, I'm using PF Sense. So you don't need the UniFi gateway. Thoughts on most recent UniFi Express for Homelab? Personally, idea, but prefer an expanded 2.5 gig internet, Wi-Fi 6 option. I think they're great for home users who want basic features. People who want a better firewall experience for their home lab because they want to tinker more, you're going to be happier with PF Sense. But if you don't care about that, Radal just did a video on his home lab setup and he uses UniFi. He doesn't spend a lot of time playing with firewalls, so it doesn't matter to him, and UniFi works fine. I like the flexibility of PF Sense more than UniFi. So first you have to decide, do you need the features? And if you don't need the features, then yeah, you can go with it. I don't think it's a bad device. When UniFi wireless, what do you generally send them to? Auto? Yeah, I just leave auto on the power. What about planning, scanning tool do you use? I walk around with my phone and look for dead spots. Suricata or Snort for small business, about 15 systems, 2 servers. Do they have exposed ports? Do they open things up to the internet? That's the only time Sierra Cottage is really going to be helpful. Trying to monitor traffic with it is hard because it's a lot of false positives. It's not something we run in production that much for clients because it's not the best way to manage it. And you have a lot of false positives to sort out a lot about. Can you test UniFi Express AP mesh mode? Sure. If you use another router like, I wouldn't buy the Express if you're using PF Sense. Why would you buy the Express if you have PF Sense? What is your recommendation for hardware getting started with TrueNAS? Look for the ability to connect 6 to 8 drives. I mean, Brian Moses has videos on low budget builds, but the TrueNAS Mini R is actually pretty affordable. So I don't know where your budget is. Do you recommend managing multiple users with SyncThing and a central home server? Separating users by devices folders seem messy. I don't know if it's that messy. I don't really think of it as a user management tool. I just connect all the things that need to be connected to it. So I don't maybe understand your use case of it. Upgrading Proxmox, should I go 7.4 to 8? I have no idea. I don't use Proxmox enough to answer that question. Is IDS, IPS necessary in a home environment? I let people decide that. It's fun, but then they realize how much work it is, and then they turn it on to block everything. Then they start feeling that they're under attack all the time until they realize how many false positives there are. And once you realize so many false positives, they don't want to spend the time tuning it. Then they turn it off. But that's not everybody's experience. It kind of you got to find your own journey on that one. There's talk of a UniFi edge device coming, Ultra. You deployed to our family members still using that? Yes, I still have them with the UniFi Dream Router. This may eventually end up as their upgrade. That because the other one's getting a little dated, but it still works fine. Can confirm Tailscale is super easy and super simple for sure. PF Sense is appliance or virtualized. You can virtualize it. You can load it on your own hardware. Both are options. I run Circuit on my Homelab internal networks. It does take 2 to 3 weeks of just monitoring and killing off rules to make false positives. Yep, that is very true. Also true that Syracuse Snort, that most of the traffic is still encrypted firewall. They can't read it anyways. That's true as well. Both of those things are true. Let's see here. VLAN setup is done in Cloud Key and PF Sense. Yes. Snort Circuit is fine at home. You don't have the rest of the family wanting to kill you. Headscale versus Netbird. Well, I've never heard of Netbird. So what is Netbird? Never heard of it, never used it. So I don't know if Netbird's any good. No idea. I take that back. I kind of heard of it. I don't know how good it is. So they have a Windows, Mac, Docker, Android. Cool. That's one thing about Tailscale is they're pretty trusted because they've gone through a lot of security auditing. The problem I have with a lot of these companies is, I don't know that they have or have not, but that's something that I care about is how have they gone through security auditing yet? If they have, awesome. I don't know because people have asked me about Netbird, but I've never used it. So I don't know much about it. Like, I don't know how much quality it is, who's behind it. Not a ton of information about the people behind it, which is usually what it. Let's see here. I mean, it looks. I'm seeing if there's anything on here, and if someone can, just email me. Um, FAQ. Here we go. Anything about security? So let's go. And this is Tailscale, for example. Tailscale has got an entire security audit for their stuff. SOC 2 compliance, security bulletins, works with external companies to audit this. Those are important things for making sure that the code's good. So it's not just about finding the code, it's also making sure they go through security. So until I find more information about NetBird, I don't think I'm going to bother trying it. How do you know when a Docker instance is active running? You should probably use something like Portainer, or Dockage is a new one, but Portainer is more popular right now. And it can tell you all, it can give you a web interface to manage Docker. I use Security Onion a lot, but it's a lot to take in. I found a compromised PC that had a backdoor, remote control, soft front end. In the end, got their server that was stealing shutdown. Yeah. I considered the possibility of buy UniFi Express only for the layer 3 route in my UniFi switch, but like you say, it's not possible. Why even try? Assuming Windows, no, I think the what do you call it? Steam Deck proved Linux can make a pretty good gaming system. NetBird is the former Wired Trustee product, similar to Tailscale. The old Wired Trustee was very basic. But does anyone know if they've gone through any security auditing? That's the whole thing that not enough people are really taking into consideration. This is why we have such a disaster of security constantly right now. Is it's one of those things, like if you're not doing secure by design first, you're not going through code reviews and audits, and this is hard, especially you look at the big companies, they're failing at it. This has happened a couple of times when people have put open source products out there, and when someone takes the time to look at them, they don't hold up to scrutiny unless the team had a good secure by design first mentality on it. Bitwarden went in with secure by design and still had third-party companies find some problems with it. That's why they go through annual code reviews by two different companies. They alternate companies that do their code review at Bitwarden. I mean, it's not easy to write something. And when you talk about the transport layer, it's hard for me to have trust in VPN services until I know they've gone through some critical review. I actually talked about Bitwarden for a couple years as something I wouldn't use until they finished their security audit. And I held to my guns on that yes, I will not do it. But then finally, they went through their security audit, and then boom, I went and changed over to Bitwarden. So it's definitely one of those things. Like I don't have a problem doing it. I'm always worried until these companies go through some level of auditing. What does net data let you do? I have a video on it that'd probably be better. Just search my channel for net data. I've got a whole video. It's just a monitoring tool. For me, Windows is only for playing games, but for personally me, Windows is for playing games and the occasional demo on a YouTube video to prove I can do something in Windows. But I'm pretty Windows dumb. I'm clumsy in Windows. Like I know how it works under the hood. I'm always clumsy as to where they keep moving things, because Microsoft likes to move things for the sake of putting things in a new spot. I don't know why they do it, but for reasons they do. You got my kids messaging me now. Let's see. Any good tutorials about multi-peer WireGuard setup where I can route between two different peers? Home firewalls, pfSense, others. You're trying to have one system bridge the other. I don't think I have any tutorials on that. You could probably start with my how to build a WireGuard server tutorial and go from there and start building all the routes in it. I don't really have many people ask for that question to build up a multi-peer routing system. Yep, you can't. And the anti-cheat thing requires you to come back to Windows. Yep. Regarding SDN, Zero Tears doesn't get enough love. Also, super easy to set up and has some awesome build firewall. Yeah, Zero Tears is a good product. I believe they've gone through some code auditing. I have the same standards for all these companies. How's your code audit look? I hope you cleared up my firewall question in the vlog Thursday email. Is there a firewall question? I think it's one. I'm assuming it's the one you just emailed me, and I'll answer the question now because you're here and I can pull the email up. I just upgraded network from UniFi with Protect. Now I want a better firewall. Can I just plug the fiber into the PFSense, connect the UniFi WAN to the PFSense LAN because I'm not sure how to get away from gateway. I have a video on double NAT if you want to do it that way, where you can combine the two. Generally, you're going to replace your UniFi firewall with a PFSense one, if that's what you want to do. ChatGPT audit my code. One day, I don't know that we're there. Any thoughts? Thoughts on heightened regulation, open source software possibly compromising privacy and security? I don't know what thoughts I would have on that. Generally, open source is better because you'll know if it's compromising. You can look through the code and make better determinations. You have to figure out or trust the company writing the software of what they're doing with the software. NetBird is saying GDPR and ISO compliant. Well, those aren't security. I mean, GDPR is privacy compliant. That's fine. I don't think that's a bad thing, but I start with security, then we'll go down to privacy. If you can't meet the bar for security, you haven't met the minimum requirements. It starts with security, privacy matters, but the fact that you can self-host these apps, I mean, private self-hosted apps kind of eliminate the privacy concerns because I control it then. I am putting it in my environment and doing what I want. And even if it wants to make calls out to places, I can now monitor the calls it makes out and to make my own determinations. Security is way harder to determine if it's done. Application security testing is not cheap. It's not that these companies don't want to go through application security testing. The problem is it's expensive to do so. That's the biggest problem with all of them. Do you still mess with Untangle? Have there been any big changes or advancements? No, Arista's kind of let the company stay. I think they bought it. They're maintaining it. They're doing updates. I don't keep up with it as much. We don't have many people using it. We have a handful of clients that just keep renewing their license, but it works and it's not broken. The updates are working. For multi-peer WireGuard is hard if you are new to the subject. If the server uses one IP address for the routing, it's easy. Adding more peers with the WGX config, you just need a different IP address for each peer. Yeah, and then you just gotta have the peers allowed to talk to each other, and it should work. Not something I set up often because no one ever asked me to. Recommendation for HDDs for a TrueNAS setup of roughly 10 terabytes of usable storage. I just bought a bunch of Seagate drives. They seem to work fine. This is what I put in there. I got a deal on some Seagate Exos drives. So these work great. My UniFi gateway is a UDM Pro SE. How do I replace gateway with PFSense and still use UniFi Protect because I have 30 cameras? Oh, yeah, I have a video that's complicated to set up. It's not that complicated, but I have a video on that topic. It's type in UniFi PFSense and my channel, and you'll find the video I have on how to connect both of them, complete with diagrams. As a dude that just took a job in a place that lied on DOJ Fed audits for 20 years, I feel that. Yeah. Yeah. People lie on these things all the time. I This is why I like, transparency and open source and companies that actually do security and code auditing. It makes a lot more sense. Let's see where my employee notices went. Not, it depends which drive. So according to Backblaze report, Seagate has the highest failure rates of all the brands, but it varies the drives. Recommendation for this is always get the cheapest you can. Redundant setups. If one dies, replace it. Yep, that is a good idea. What services does your IT partner offer versus what you use software in house? All the same, but more. So we offer all the same services we used to before. Uh, we merged, and we've got more services we offer. So the difference is we offer more Cisco, more Meraki, more experience, more people, a bigger team since we merged. So it's all upsells on things. Which, watch out for the green HDDs. It comes down to which drives. It's not even just a brand of drives because there's very few companies anymore for things. Western Digital is not with all their faults either. Yeah, like buying cars. Some are lemons. Yeah, all these companies definitely have some issues. There's nothing. Are these remote services or on-site services? I may be interested. Both. We have consulting we do around the world, so a lot of it's remote. On-site services are limited to Detroit and Toledo. Well, some exceptions. We do out-of-state installs. As long as people are willing to pay for a team to fly out there, we'll fly a team out there. And we have companies doing that. We have another job we're doing where they're flying they're driving because it's close enough. It's easier to drive with the equipment, but driving or flying is definitely on the list, man. It comes with an expense. As long we've got people that spent $30,000-$40,000 to get us out there to do a project, sometimes even more than that. We had a school spend almost $250,000 to bring my crew out there to get a job done, and we did a big project for them. And that stuff we'll do. It's just we're not going to go on site for anything. I mean, I don't know where the minimums are, but you're talking about someone going to spend quite a bit to do that. Oh, let's see. Yeah, all of them have bad batches. It is pointless doing the brand argument for sure. But I have an event to go to. I'm just deciding if I should do this again tonight. Should I do a second stream tonight? Let me know in the comments. I told my kids we're all going. So here's a secret you don't know about me. Well, maybe some of you know, because I've done a video in 2017 about this. I have a cousin who's a big YouTube star, and I'm going to go hang out with her for a little bit at a pet event. So I'm going to go to a pet expo here in Michigan and go hang out with my cousin who has a big YouTube channel. Trivia would be leaving in the comments if you can figure out who my cousin is who has like millions of subscribers about pets. I told my kids I'd take them all out there to go hang out. And my kids aren't young, by the way. My youngest is 17, but we're all just going to go and have fun, hang out with my cousin and stuff like that. Let's see. Second stream, please. Yeah, I'll get the night people if I do a second stream. But yeah, I do. It's well, as I said, a small trivia question. I built a computer for her on my channel. So if you dig around on my channel, you'll find out I did a computer build video with her. It's actually one of the only pictures on my channel that has dogs in it because it's her dogs. Yeah, stream 24/7. I'd run out of voice. All right, I'm gonna bounce out of here so I can get ready to go do a thing with my kids, and that's about it. I think the employee said he's all set and figured this stuff out. So I used to live in the Ypsi, Ann Arbor area. Winters are so great there. It's nice in the winter. It's really not too bad today, but you're right. There's some challenges in the winter. All right, I'm going to leave now. Leave your comments and thoughts down below. Connect with me over in the forums. Send your questions to vlogthursday@lawrencesystems.com, and I'll see you next time.